you know, iron.
I think God and Moses both just have enormous respect for each other.
White gladiator has that same right spirit.
Look, the judges are gone. Even the Egyptian judge is impressed.
Until recently, you claimed that the Earth revolved around the sun.
Welcome to History Bites. I'm Rick Green. Usually when a bunch of guys go on a canoe trip, it's just drinking and telling exaggerated stories about the size of their fish. But when two Americans, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, set off from St. Louis in their canoes, it was news across the United States. Because in 1803, St. Louis was as far west as the United States went. President Jefferson had just purchased a property called Louisiana after King Louis. But Jefferson was already looking beyond it. He wanted to know what juicy real estate lay even further west, maybe a river passage to the Pacific. So he sent Lewis and Clark on an odyssey to an area that no U.S. citizen had ever seen. To survive this 3-year road trip, they took everything you could imagine. The only thing missing was a crew making a documentary for television.
The Missouri River. Its waters flow from the westernmost part of the United States to the easternmost part of nowhere at all, the lands known only as the Unknown Lands. We are going to trek across an area where no man has gone before. Native Indians don't count. We are going to accompany Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to the West. We will be traveling with the men of the Corps of Discovery as they attempt to find the elusive Northwest Passage to the Pacific Ocean. We will be traveling through areas never before seen by Americans, and none of the men are certain what we will find.
Well, if you believe the rumors, we are going to a land populated by woolly mammoths. So I'm bringing a really big gun and this book, the Mammoth Book of Cooking. They say mammoth tastes like chicken.
They say we're going to be climbing hills of pure salt. Man, will we be thirsty.
What kind of preparations can a person make for a territory that's just filled with volcanoes? I'm wearing my double-soled shoes and this hat.
The men have heard rumors that the West is populated by blue-eyed Indians who speak Welsh.
Yeah, I bought a book on how to speak Welsh. And then I thought, what the hell am I going to say to a bunch of blue-eyed Welsh-speaking Indians, for Christ's sake? So I traded the book for this.
Oh, geez, somebody, you okay, Charlie? Charlie, you okay?
Hopefully, the volcanoes of salt will keep the Welsh Indians at bay. If not, we could train the mammoths and ride them into battle against the Indians. Or we could recruit the Indians to help us stampede the giant mammoths into the volcanoes and plug them up.
If President Jefferson does make good on his plan to ban the importation of slaves from Africa into America, some southern slave owners are openly talking about slave breeding farms. While some point out that America already has a glut of slaves, economists say the nation's fledgling cotton industry is on the verge of a boom in production.
Well, no, as far as supplies go, I mean, we've got enough. I mean, we've got $2,500 in financing. Yeah, and we've got 45 men that would be away 2 years. That's $250,000 man-dollar years.
And that's a lot of man-dollar years.
Yeah, that's. Well, I've had to take on the role of doctor as well as captain. It's not a real big problem. So I brought a lot of different medicines, but the one I prescribe most is Dr. Rush's bilious pills. We call them thunderbolts. Well, because they're good for what ails you. Oh, in fact, look, it says so right here on the label. Good for what ails you. Isn't that something? These pills rid the body of disease, apparently by ridding the body of all its contents. It's a very powerful laxative, and thank goodness we travel to a new place every day.
Stop. I have to go again. Pardon.
Oh, yeah. Ditto on the doo-doo.
You know how it is when you go on a long trip somewhere, you'll always miss out on something that's happening back home. Like, I don't know, one of the kids learning to walk, or your spouse paints the deck, or the Vice President of the United States challenges the former Treasury Secretary to a duel.
Well, they come from opposite sides of the tracks. One, the son of an immigrant who worked his way up from nothing. The other, born into the lap of luxury. One, a Federalist. The other, a Democratic Republican. One believes his beer offers great taste. The other feels it's less filling. Tonight, they're going to decide it all on dueling night in Weehawken. Welcome to Weehawken Field in New Jersey, where today Aaron Burr will square off against arch rival Alexander Hamilton. I'm Vince Drummond with my partner Randy the Sniper Salvatore, and what a treat we've got today, Randy, because these two guys really don't like each other.
Well, that's right, Vince, and isn't it crazy how often that's the case with two men who've agreed to go head-to-head in a gunfight to the death?
You know, it sure isn't. What makes this duel different than others we've seen this season?
Well, the handcrafted Wogden dueling pistols for one thing, the exceptional hairdos of the two combatants for another, and the fact that one man is the Vice President of the United States and the other's the Secretary of State. You don't see that every day.
As part of his mission, Captain Lewis must collect plant samples to send to President Jefferson for scientific research.
Love, always.
Just then, Sergeant Pryor returns from a trip to the Sioux Indian encampment.
Just a second, please.
Lewis had dispatched Sergeant Pryor to visit the Indian camp. He returns with good news. The natives are friendly.
They carried me on a buffalo robe, and they gave all the men a feast of stewed dog meat.
Oh, magnifique.
None of us had ever had dog meat before, but I gotta say, it was great.
It was like chicken. Or mammoth.
We have been forced to set up camp here in the land of the Mandan Indians. The Missouri is frozen solid with the arrival of winter. Our boats are now locked in ice, so travel is impossible. Also, our late-night skinny dipping activities have been temporarily curtailed. We have been forced to set up camp here in the land of the Mandan Indians. Activities have been temporarily curtailed.
Will, what gave the United States twice the landmass it had before in one fell swoop?
Smallpox among the Indians.
The Louisiana Purchase. Robert, who crowned Napoleon Emperor of France?
That would be Napoleon, the new Emperor of France.
Correct. Jerome, France's new legal system, the Napoleonic Code, is named after what leader?
Pierre Code.
Napoleon. Will, the Napoleonic Code brings back and legalizes what French right?
Mistresses?
Owning slaves in French colonies.
The Mandan Indians have a curious ritual dance that they're going to be performing this evening. They believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but they believe that this will convince the great herds of buffalo to return to this land.
We need them.
Yeah, we do. They made actually a special request that we send one of the men to partake of this simple ritual.
The two captains must now address the men regarding their new neighbors.
That we maintain friendly relationships with these people.
Yeah.
Now look, it's not complicated at all.
No.
From what I understand, the older men of the tribe will all be arranged in this big circle. And then the younger men of the tribe will present their naked wives to one of the men in the circle, who will then be required to sleep with the young Indian woman. And this procedure will be repeated throughout the night. Now, are there any one of you who would be willing to sacrifice your evening of telling manly stories?
Coming up, the ultimate in hungry man dinners. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark were close friends, traveling companions, and related by marriage. But they couldn't have been more different in personality. In fact, a description of the pair reads like the setup to a buddy cop movie. Lewis, the well-educated, moody hypochondriac. Clark, the outgoing, sharp-dressing ladies' man. Now they've got just 28 months to cross the continent, do the West Coast, and make it back alive.
Captain Lewis and I have been friends since he was first under my command with the Chosen Rifle Company. Yeah, he's a great commander, tough as nails. Of course, you'd have to be pretty tough growing up with a first name like Meriwether.
Yeah, well, I think things are going pretty well. Doing pretty well. I mean, we work pretty well together.
Yeah. I mean, but we're also, we're also like friends.
Yeah, but, this is still a military expedition.
You gotta have discipline.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was like Alex the other day. Remember that he fell asleep on guard duty.
Oh.
So we had to talk to him, and we told him never to do it again. And then we whipped him to within an inch of his life.
Right. Well, just a little less than an inch, actually.
Yeah, that's right. A quarter inch of his life. It was touch and go.
But you know what? When the men respect you enough to put their lives in your hands, sometimes you have to beat them within an inch of those lives.
Yeah.
The Mandans had warned Lewis and Clark that they would encounter bears, larger and more ferocious than any they had ever seen before.
Fire!
Today, though, the bear will have the last laugh.
Okay. Now he looks angry.
I'm an actress. In my life on the stage, I worry about personal freshness. But I don't dare ruin my skin and expose myself to disease by constantly bathing. That's why I use rosy, fresh, slim pomanders with the delicate aroma of an English country garden.
Other pomanders cause unsightly bulges in your clothing, but new Rosy Fresh Slims are 30% thinner, so you only bulge where you should.
Rosy Fresh discreetly masks body odor without the need for harmful bathing.
Also effective in warding off bubonic plague.
It has been 8 days since the Corps of Discovery entered the mountains. They now find themselves and their supply of food exhausted.
No! Look, we can't eat any more of the horses. If we have any more horse meat, we'll turn into Frenchmen. Is that what you want?
Doesn't bother me. Do we have to eat all of him? Surely the horse can run on 3 legs.
Wait until morning, and then we can go hunting.
I can't wait till morning.
Unless you want to eat the fat from the candles.
Waxy.
Now, how do you think the outcome of this duel might affect the political careers of these two men?
Well, I think it'll severely hurt the campaign of the candidate who ends up dead.
But Randy, let's go over a little of the history of this rivalry.
Well, as most of our viewers know, these two have been at it for decades as opposing lawyers in New York, as business partners with the Manhattan Company, and as political rivals.
That's right. Then 3 years ago, Hamilton added more fuel to the fire by labeling Burr a profligate and a voluptuary in the extreme.
Ooh, ouch, strong words by Mr. Hamilton.
Now, what do you suppose he meant by those words?
I have absolutely no idea. I probably should have said big words instead of strong.
Let's go down now to the field level with Sheila, who's standing by with Mr. Hamilton.
Are you feeling any butterflies just moments before the big match?
My solicitude is in full repression.
Many people believe that Mr. Burr challenged you to this duel because of public comments you made about him ruining his chances at the gubernatorial race. What did you say about him?
I merely elucidated the provocatory nature of a disputatious adversary.
Right.
It has now been 11 days since the Corps of Discovery entered the mountains. They are all starving and near death.
Please, just give me a bite.
But the members of the film crew have been given strict instructions not to give them anything.
Sorry, man.
Barely alive, they are found by an Indian tribe, the Nez Perce. The natives consider killing the white men, but because of kindness the white men had shown a Nez Perce woman earlier, the Nez Perce decide to help them. They offer the men a strange new food, and the men gorge themselves on the Indian roots. That night, the men suffer for it.
Oh, my.
Excuse me.
I warned you, gentlemen, that consuming more than a small amount of that Indian root would lead to adverse consequences for your digestive systems.
Could somebody please open the tent flap? One of the most versatile members of the expedition was a 16-year-old native woman, Sacajawea. She was one of those people that things happened to. She was captured at a very young age by the Shoshone tribe. She was sold to the Mandan tribe and traded among their braves. Then she married the expedition's French-Canadian interpreter after the romantic devil won her in a bet. She traveled with the expedition, pausing only to give birth to a baby boy. Let's see Lewis or Clark do that. She was also the key to an incredible coincidence that probably saved the lives of the entire Corps.
Tired and hungry, the Corps of Discovery has finally found the Shoshone encampment. Now the success of their mission and their very lives hang on Sacagawea's ability to negotiate in Shoshone with the Indian chief Kamehameha.
What do you think she's saying?
She's probably telling them how great we are and brave and stuff.
You know what? I think you're right, because the chief is clearly impressed.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think he's saying now?
Oh, I'd recognize that body language. He's putting the Shoshone moves on her.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We got to get a translation of whatever he just said.
Definitely, yeah.
I wonder if it's Welsh.
Tell him we'd like to trade for some of his horses.
Moi, j'ai quitté mon pays bleu.
Translation is difficult, as it must go from English to French to Hidatsi to Shoshone. Thankfully, no one has to resort to speaking Welsh. But eventually, a deal is struck, and the Corps have their horses. They soon head off into the mountains.
Le petit déjeuner sont 5 francs et le coût est violent.
He says his daughter loves poetry, and he can knit you a shirt out of salmon skin.
What?
Quoi?
What?
Sakaga.
Huh?
Tonight we have a really big show for you. All the way from Germany, the master of noise, the Baron of Boom. He'll be doing a little number he wrote, and the number is the 9th. Now please put your finger in your ears for Mr. Ludwig van Beethoven, everyone.
It has been 16 months since the Corps of Discovery first set out. Along the way, Sacajawea has had a baby. Now, having followed the Missouri River to its source, they stand on the verge of the Continental Divide, awaiting the imminent glory of success on their mission.
Men, come up here. Now, men, we've been through a lot these past 17 months. Lord knows at times even I didn't think we were going to make it, but now you're going to get a chance to see why we did what we did. On the other side of this hill is the mouth of the Columbia River, which will lead us directly to the Pacific Ocean. We found the Northwest Passage! Now, we did this not only for the glory of every man and woman in this Corps, but for the betterment of every American from this generation forward. Meriwether, what is it? What? Where's the river? Where's the...
With awe and pride, the men of the Corps realize they have discovered one of the greatest and largest mountain ranges in the world. It is an emotional moment.
While Lewis and Clark were out bravely battling across the plains and struggling over the Rocky Mountains, the politicians who'd sponsored the expedition were busy back in Washington, fighting amongst themselves, some of them literally. The Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr, fought a duel with the former Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton. Burr had actually fought Hamilton's brother-in-law a few years earlier. In that duel, honor was satisfied after Burr lost a button. The second Aaron-Burr duel also ended when someone lost a button. Unfortunately, this time, it was a belly button.
Oh, and it looks like we're about to get underway here as both men have loaded their guns. We're ready for the pace-off.
And there they go.
Burr and Hamilton making their way down the field. Both men taking this one step at a time.
Hamilton's at 5 paces away.
He's at 6.
There's 7.
8. He could go all the way to 9. He's at 10 paces. Both men turn.
Hamilton shoots.
Oh, he fires wide.
There's Burr with a shot.
What a save by Hamilton. Hamilton!
He blocked the shot with his stomach.
No, it squirts through. It's all over for Hamilton anyway.
My.
Now let's check down in the field with Aaron Burr. Sheila.
How do you feel?
Well, I feel great. I feel alive, and you know, that Mr. Hamilton said some pretty nasty things about me. At least I think they were nasty, and I just wanted to show the world that what he said wasn't true. And I think that by gunning him down in cold blood, I have proven that I was right.
They spot yet another tributary feeding into the main river. They note its position on the map and discuss a possible name.
Look at this water. It's so clear and beautiful. I think I'm going to name it after the woman I hope one day to marry. That's it. I'm going to call it the Judith River. Judith River. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a great name.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. You notice the river is flat and cold and big at the mouth?
After 18 months, the Corps of Discovery has finally found a northwest passage to the Pacific Ocean.
Well, after 18 months, the Corps of Discovery has finally found a northwest passage to the Pacific Ocean.
Isn't that strange? That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's a beautiful sight, isn't it? Just seeing her in all her magnificence makes it all worth it.
Great. You know, it's just too bad it's going to take us upward of a year to get home, huh?
All right, men, what is this? A sightseeing tour? Come on, let's turn those boats around. Come on, those mountains aren't going to climb themselves. Let's move it.
When the Corps of Discovery finally returned to St. Louis, there was a huge celebration. Except by the citizens who'd bet money Lewis and Clark were long dead. Each man was rewarded with double pay and a tract of land. Imagine their excitement. What do we get for crossing an enormous chunk of untamed land? We get a nice-sized chunk of untamed land. Maybe that's why a lot of the Corps headed back west and became mountain men. William Clark married Judith Hancock, the woman he named a river after. Sacajawea had a daughter, but died a year later. And true to a promise he made to her, Clark took custody of her 2 children and raised them as his own. Meriwether Lewis was appointed governor of Louisiana, but despite his achievements, he never found happiness. In 1809, he shot himself. This brave frontiersman conquered a continent, but lost out to his own demons. Sometimes history is glorious, and sometimes history bites.
Now, do you feel that this will revive your political career?
Well, absolutely, yes, because I think that I've sent a real statement to the voters today, a real message. And as a politician, I think they now know that I'm a real straight shooter. And I think they also know that if they don't vote for me, I just might kill them.
Wow, well, quite a match today, Randy. You know, it almost makes you wish it could have been a best of 2 out of 3.
Unfortunately, the format has and probably always will be sudden death.